All right, so we're back with another episode of Crankly Speaking. It's Simon Kessler here in Boulder, Colorado, with Daryl MP in Sydney, Australia. We're going to talk a little bit about the first two stages at the Tour de France, and also we're going to go over some of the questions that you guys sent in. We'll save that for towards the end of the show today. First off, Daryl, super exciting first 2 days of the Tour de France. We see Alpecin dominating those finishes, hectic finishes. First off, incredible lead out there by Caden Groves and Mathieu van der Poel to deliver Jasper Philipsen on stage one. And then today, Van der Poel, you could just see he was on mentally. It split on those tough climbs, let it out with 300 to go with Tadej on his wheel. And, once he launched, Tadej couldn't make up hardly any ground, and was an incredible win and yellow jersey for Mathieu van der Poel. So what are your thoughts on these initial days, these first 2 days? I know they're super hectic.
Well, from a team perspective, from not my team, but from Alpecin's perspective, it's pretty much tour locked up and done already. It's like they've got their two victories, 2 days in yellow. Couldn't have had a dream start like that. That's just they're a team that's come for these specific stages. You can tell they've got a lot of guys around Philipsen and Van der Poel. They've got a team for that. They obviously got no overall objectives, so they tick in those boxes. And what a way to start! Take the pressure off straight away, and now they can just do whatever they want. Right? They don't have to even have the responsibility of chasing down breakaways. They've got that luxury now to sit in that pound seat and just profit off all the other teams. The sprinters have lost already a day. An opportunity. Although we know that Tour de France this year is pretty sprint heavy, but I think in general, like, hell, if you're in Alpecin right now, you're just sitting there going like, how good is cycling? The rest of the teams are obviously going, okay, it's just the start of the tour. We don't have to stress too much. There's many opportunities, but as the tour goes on and as those opportunities start to slip by or the guys miss it, we're definitely going to start to see a lot of panic, a lot of stress, and yeah, like I said, Alpecin's just going to be profiting off that.
Yeah, I mean, when you start a tour like that, it must just create so much confidence, and it's like a snowball effect. I think Van der Poel today, I'm sure he was encouraged just by winning the first day. He wanted his turn to get the top spot. Jasper Philipsen at the finish looked just as happy as he was on day one when he congratulated Mathieu for his win. They're such a close-knit team. It seems like a team that's, they don't try and reinvent the wheel. They know what they're good at. They stick to a formula, and when it comes to the big stage, they get it right more times than not. It's pretty impressive what they've done over the last few years. What are your thoughts on their team and how they just keep delivering when it matters at the tour?
Well, look, I mean, there's no doubt they've got huge pressure. I mean, everyone's seen them. Their manager of the team is pretty straightforward. Is there for results. Doesn't really care about the other teams what they think or do, or focus on just winning races at the biggest bike race where you got the most coverage, the most publicity. So no doubt they come in there with a huge amount of pressure. But you can see by the team they stack together. If you compare their teams to the other races they go to, all the tours, the grand tours they go to, they don't have such a heavily stacked team. That's just goes without saying. They have a completely different team. Um, but yeah, in saying that Van der Poel, I mean, he would have had that pressure off already. He would have already had that pressure off going into today's stage, yesterday's stage for me. But he would have already had that pressure off. Oh, we've got a yellow jersey, we got this. They're riding pound seat in good position all day. Lots of respect throughout the group. Yeah, I mean, can't ask for anything more.
On the first day, we saw some of the top guys being caught out there. In the crosswinds there, we saw Remco losing some time. We saw Roglic, and they both admitted that they were asleep when that happened. It was about 17, 18 Ks to go. It looked like Vingegaard was the one who was really driving it at first, who really put in that big push, and 20 plus guys rode away there in the crosswinds. Not an ideal start to lose, 39 seconds, I think it was, for those top guys. Were you a little concerned there to see UAE? They only had really two riders there, Tim Wellens and Tadej, and yet Visma had four riders. They definitely looked a lot more, um, present when it mattered. Do you think there's a bit of a, I don't know, maybe on these flat days, you think UAE is a little vulnerable compared to Visma when it comes to this first 10 days or so?
Well, no doubt Jonas is feeling good on the bike. I think he's of course he's already stated he hasn't felt this good before. So I think in terms of what he's there. He's looking for any opportunity. I mean, everybody knows these first couple stages are very tricky, very difficult, very windy. They're small, narrow roads at times. So if you have a team that can do damage, let's be honest, you don't need a climb to do the damage in the Tour de France. And, that's why even catching a guy like Remco yesterday or catching a guy like Primoz out, it's a huge advantage having a team that's just thinking about every single day as a one-day race and then knowing that that collectively comes to the overall result. It depends on the team's approach. I think Jumbo, I mean, Visma, Lisa Bike, they are just kind of thinking every opportunity we can strike, we're going to do it. Even if we take someone will miss out, and I think that's the way they're playing it. I mean, UAE has got obviously an awesome team. They're also heavily stacked. I mean, it's much of a muchness, but the thing that you're seeing a lot is that Jonas and Tadej are just together all the time. There's like, in the sprint finish today, uphill finish, second and third, just following each other like a little rash. It's just, yeah. There's no doubt that the two of them are so fixated on each other. Maybe Jonas more on today. I'm not too sure, but it's clear that Jonas doesn't have any fear of going for it himself. So it shows that he feels he's probably ready. His confidence is good. Obviously, he knows what numbers he's doing, and I think I think the other teams are, after stage one are going like, oh, missed opportunity. Yeah, like, oh, how do we miss that? Even though it wasn't massive thing, but it definitely, there's a discussion afterwards in the team buses. There's some kind of a debrief that goes down with every team at the end of the day like that and goes, okay, what happened today? And it's obviously if you're in Quick Step or Red Bull, or it's not a nice place to be in.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the big sprinters were really betting on stage one to be a big sprint day. I know Milan was all in for that day, so was Tim Millier, but obviously it didn't work out that way with the crosswinds. Tomorrow, I think, is a big opportunity for another sprint day. I know some of the teams, like the two we just mentioned, those two guys, the top sprinters, as well as some other guys, are going to be all in for tomorrow. Do you have any predictions for tomorrow's sprint? I know it's probably going to be another hectic one, obviously, day three of the tour.
Ah, that's going to be the usual guys. Would have been nice to see Binyam get up. The yellow jersey. That would have been awesome for Africa as a continent. But I'm still happy that I'm still the only African to have the yellow. But no, it would have been super cool if he had pulled it off. He's also showing he's in great shape. It's so tense up there with those sprinters. Milan. I don't know. I'm not so sure of the context, but I saw Milan came over to Binyam after the stage. I don't know if it was to apologize or I'm not too sure. I just saw a small little clip came out. Yeah, there's no doubt that those guys are fighting for every little inch of the road. Tempers are high, the stakes are high. There's a lot of argy-bargy going down. Everybody feels somebody flicked them in the sprint or got in their way, or their team was together and how dare they push someone else off their train or whatever. But the truth is the truth is at the end there it's bike racing. I know, and even I did it as a professional. It's like you feel like you're on your team and that nobody can touch you. It's like, but when you're sprinting, actually, it just goes all out the window. I mean, the guys are fighting for any wheel they can. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what we're gonna see. It will be a sprint for sure, and it'll be the usual suspects. The which team is probably the most dialed? It probably is Alpecin. Look at their lead out train. They've just come with one mission, one task, and that's why they're able to control it. And it's only going to become easier for them because they've got the status now in the group. They've already started the Tour de France with like, hey, we've won 2 days in a row. We got our shit together, and like that. A lot of guys feel that. You feel that in the peloton, and you kind of the teams that don't have a full lead out train kind of will follow the Alpecin train, and that's going to be a huge fight behind there. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, we did see Milan and Binyam Game have some kind of altercation in one of the intermediate sprints. It looked like I don't know exactly what happened. They were like maybe bumping into each other, but afterwards Milan looked pretty heated and upset, shouting at Gourmet. And then I think at the photo you're referring to might have been him apologizing afterwards. I think the Italians, hot-blooded. I think they definitely can can run hot in those situations. But the tour, how is it in those first few days? I know in the past you've described it kind of like a war zone out there. I mean, it's hard to tell sometimes on television because you see often the pack just riding, on the front, like just like a wall with teams, lined up. Can you give us a little bit of an insight into how it's like? Is it like a war zone there in those final 20, 30, 50K? Like how is that in those first few days of the tour?
Well, I mean, you guys see it as a wall, and you just think everything looks controlled, and you see teams in a line. But what you don't see is the stuff behind that front of the wall. Um, in between all of that is someone trying to move up, trying to come up somewhere. It's constantly a handlebar in your right on your left hand cheek or your right hand cheek. You're constantly feeling like a handlebar just right where you're sitting the whole time. So you know that if you break a little bit, someone's in that gap. You don't see that from the TV. You don't see it from the helicopter view. It all looks like it's all like organized and everyone's together. But it is just constantly fighting. There is somebody on the right hand side of the road. There's someone on the left hand side of the road, just waiting for a team to move over slightly a little bit more to the right or left to make enough space to just slip in there. And once you've got one guy from another team slipping in your spot, that's where it all goes wrong. That's where they start making space, start pushing guys, start drifting guys a little bit back. Then all of a sudden another teammate comes again and there's two under and then it's three under. And then all of a sudden it's like the whole team's lost position. They're forced to the middle of the peloton. And then you start seeing them getting ratty, sliding back. And it's just, we call it the washing machine, and it's constant. It just does not stop. Yeah, so like when you see it on TV and you think, wow, this is amazing, like everyone's together, it's not that. And the guys on the front, they are riding at 500-600 watts, just trying to keep position. And then you see them like swing, but where do they swing to? They are so conscious of where their teammates are. And then you start seeing them getting tired and coming through the peloton and just creating more of that washing effect, getting in the way. And like I said, riders are so close, not giving an inch. So, got to remember those guys that are riding on the front are flat out. Once they've done their turn, they're done. There's no more like, oh, just they kind of like come to a standstill. So cause a lot of trouble for the peloton.
Yeah, I mean, in those final, few K, I'm sure wheels are you smelling brake. Well, in the old days, I guess you would smell, brakes, rubber and all that. I mean, but now still you probably hear the guys touching wheels. Have you ever had bars like kind of almost locking bars, guys, being that close where you literally like on top of each other? I mean, it must be sketchy.
Oh man, you get to some positions where guys are changing your gears just by bumping into you. It's so tight, it's so close. Like everybody, you remember like there's just no space. There is no space. So when people see us racing and when you see them getting all close, the one like a lot of times you don't even see it, but the guys are leaning on each other constantly, balancing off each other, using each other as like a little bit of a steady off, and they're so professional, they're so good at doing it. Whereas when you ride with somebody that hasn't raced in a professional peloton and you bump them, they tend to go the way you've bumped them, like with you. Whereas the pro peloton, you're kind of bumping into each other. So you're using each other all the time to balance off each other. So you're counteracting each other. So if I lean right into someone, they'll lean left into me and we kind of keep each other up. Sometimes you see someone that just makes a mistake and they're not expecting someone to bump them. And that's when kind of just all the dominoes fall. But they're so aware. They're so aware. The riders are so aware who's around them. It's amazing the sense you get when you're in that. You kind of feel like you know where everybody is without having to look around. But it's when it's getting so close to those sprint finishes, and then it starts the shouting because you can't look back. It's so hectic, and your teammates and that are starting to shout riders' names and like, "Oh, are you there?" Like, "Are you there?" And you're waiting for the "Yep, I'm here," and because you're not looking back, it's. But there's a lot of shouting, and I actually remember Cav was pretty good at doing this or making. He used to make noises sometimes like "Go, go, go," because most teams use that signal like "Go, go, go," and then you see teams going earlier. I remember seeing Cav do that once or twice, like in the peloton, just like go, 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 and you just see like teams like, oh shit, someone said go, but they're not even riding for Cav, it's for somebody else, but making space. So creating panic in the group is also like sometimes the tactics some sprinters do use. Yeah, so it gets quite hectic. So you need to use like some code words when you're doing it.
That's funny. I remember Peter Vakoc, he was teammates with Cav, and he said that his ability to ride through the peloton was just incredible. Like nobody, he said Peter couldn't follow him. Like when he wanted to move up, he was just literally going through gaps and just, and that, I think that's part of his talent, right? As one of the best sprinters in the world was his ability to position himself and like really launch his sprint at the right time. I think that was probably 50% of it, right? Because in pure power on a sprint, I'm sure there were 10 guys who were comparable, right? But I think he just had that winning sense of how where to go, when to go at the right time, and also how to navigate the peloton.
Well, I think his the best thing that he had was he would be able to do it a bit effortless. You know, that
Mhm.
was his key. So when he got to the sprint finish, he hadn't used all that energy sprinting up the side or whatever. He could go through the middle. He could get under the handlebars of someone. He could find his way around. That was something that you can't teach someone that. They've either got or they don't. They've got that race sense, that ability to sense what's danger, what risk they can take. Yeah, and also Gav had the respect, to slide through the peloton because he's the world's best sprinter. So that also goes a long way. There is that like sense of like, oh, this guy's potentially going to win the stage today. Let me not get in his way. Say if I was there, for example, and I knew I was leading out a sprinter that had an okay chance, but maybe not the chance of Cavendish, I would probably tend to like give way to him, just in terms of knowing like, oh, he's potentially going to win today. Um, and naturally that comes from a lot of riders, less so these days. But yeah, I think that's kind of the thing. But Cav had that ability to get to that finish line without having to spend those pennies. He sometimes, most times, when he won, even if he didn't have a team, you think, how did he do that? It's just they got that ability. Robbie McEwen was another one who was super good at doing something like that, sniveling their way through the groups and just getting in position by themselves. And not everyone has that ability, and that's why the sprint trains are in such demand and in such need, because sometimes you get a sprinter who can sprint, but he needs to have the perfect run, and that's why you get the lead out trains.
Yeah, it's funny because amateurs will often compare power in a race and they'll, higher power is better, but actually in the pro level, it's really the rider who can complete the finish with the lowest average power is probably the better rider, the more efficient rider. And that's probably a better metric to look at if you want to look at somebody who's, super efficient in the peloton than somebody who's just wasting a bunch of matches. And there can be quite a big difference there, right, between guys who know how to ride and riders who are always in the wind or in the back closing gaps. It can be quite 20, 30, 40, who knows how many watts. So it can be a big amount. I think it's people don't realize how important that is.
Well, I think what people don't realize is you can go in the road and you can go to a max power sprint test and a 4 minute maximal and a FTP test and get your numbers and your bases and all that thing. But what they don't remember is that by the time you get to sprint in these races, you're 5 or 6 hours deep, and you haven't been cruising along the whole day at 100 watts or 200 watts. You've gone out the corners, sprinted out of a couple of corners. You might have had an hour at the start, which was already at threshold because the break took forever to go. There's a crosswind that's kept you in zone 3 for the last 2 hours. There's all those factors, and then you've got to sprint under fatigue. So that's why it makes such a big impact at the end. It's like sometimes I was winning races at, I don't know, 1100, 1200 watts, a sprint finish because, yeah, everyone is so fatigued. It doesn't matter. It's being able to come off the wheel at the right time. It's being able to tactically be smart in the end. You don't always need the most power to win a bike race. You just need to be smart and you need to be able to read how to come off a wheel. And often that's where you see those good sprinters know how to lay off a wheel and run at a wheel because that's where they get the most slipstream, when they're actually running at a wheel, versus sitting hard on the wheel and then stepping out into the wind. They kind of use that slipstream effect like to full advantage and take a real run at the wheel versus the guys that just
Yeah.
sprint off the wheel.
Like a slingshot. I remember Cipollini before he used to sprint, like he used to drop back like, a wheel or two from his lead out guy and then, accelerate into the draft, to get that what you're describing there, to get that slingshot effect. There's so many little things like that, that these guys do. So maybe we'll go to a few questions. Thanks everybody for putting out quite a few questions there. We'll answer a few of those today. We have Tom Gehring, who I know well. He'll actually be with us at the Vuelta. I'm running a bike tour there. He's one of the guests who'll be there. I know he looks forward to hopefully also seeing you there. He said, "Good show. What is it like as the team at the team dinner after stage win at the tour? One glass of champagne? Question mark. Two? Question mark. So,
Well, look, it used to be a lot better than what it is now. I mean, now guys are so scared to enjoy themselves. It's quite scary. Um, yeah, I mean, if I can talk from a personal experience, I went to bed, like I told you, at 2 a.m., hanging out with the staff. But I'm a little bit different. Yeah, so I think a lot of guys, generally you'd have a little bit of a chat. Probably the sports director would lead it, or maybe the team owner would lead it at night and do like a little bit of a celebration, a little bit of a talk to say well done as a team. And then the rider who won the stage would obviously get up and say thank you very much and thank his teammates and the staff. Everyone would raise a glass, and then kind of back to just dinner and eating. Obviously, the staff probably spend a bit more time and enjoy themselves a bit more. But the riders are so focused on the next day. They don't really hop into it as much as they used to. But because cycling has just become so difficult. I mean, it's sad because the sport has become so difficult, and people are so worried about what they actually do to their bodies. And because the next day is so brutal and every day is so brutal. If it was a sprint day, normally you go, oh, tomorrow can be easy. But you've seen, look at stage one. As soon as there's a bit of crosswind, as soon as there's an advantage for somebody to have an advantage over someone else, they're going to take it. So it's the Tour de France. So most riders will just kind of relax a bit, have a glass of wine. Some won't even touch a glass of wine. Some might have a sip of champagne and go, man, this is for you, but tomorrow's a target for me. So, going to keep it low.
Mhm. Cool. Another question from Tom. Is it common to have all the pre-race tactics go to hell once the race rolls out?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you have a general strategy. You have an idea of you discuss several scenarios in the team bus before the start. Um, Now you can only focus on what you as a team can do. You've got to focus on your strategy. You obviously discuss what could happen. So hopefully we discuss enough scenarios with the group to say, look, if this happens, if that happens, if Quickstep's following UAE and this team's following that team, or Lotto's doing this, or EF, we know they want to be in the breakaway today and they're shutting down everything. There's all those tactics that come into play. But giving the riders which team they need to look out for, or find a team that's similar to ours, and what are they doing? Are they controlling the stage because we want a sprint finish? And you'd all work, you kind of work it out a little bit. But if you know a team's, say, Alpecin is going to now tomorrow's a sprint day. They're going to ride for Philipsen, but they've been riding for 5 or 6 days already at the tour, and all of a sudden you see them starting to try and throw guys in the breakaway. It's clearly an idea of like Alpecin doesn't want to control today. They rather have someone in the breakaway so the whole team can recover and not have to you know, spend someone on the front all day or chasing or whatever. And they want to put pressure on other teams to control the race. So there's all those kind of little things that happen. And on a GC day, like, oh, is say for example, UAE is going to control. Okay, what does that mean? It means today is going to try and win the stage with the time bonus. Do you get what I'm saying? So it depends on who's in the breakaway and all that and everyone and all those factors. But you can easily start a day and go, this is, I think the team's going to do this. And you get to this, all of a sudden it's like, what? I didn't expect that. The yellow jersey was attacking from the start and that group went and all the best riders were gone all day. We didn't see them. I mean, strange things have happened in cycling. You just got to be adaptable. And the hardest part is making those decisions in the car for the team. Because the riders understand what's at play, but they also relying on this, like, somebody in the car to go, I'll take responsibility for that, my decision. Because sometimes you get good riders that are good captains in the bunch. They'll get straight on the thing, like, oh, I think we need to shut that down, otherwise we'll never see them again. And that kind of reinforces it to you as a sports director, like, actually, I was thinking that. Yep, no, go for it, boys, close it. So it helps to have some good captains in the race, and it helps to have a DS that can make decisions in the car quickly.
Does it happen sometimes where the riders they have to implement the tactics from the director, but then maybe they all in disagreement, and then afterwards there's words being spoken because it was a bad call. I mean, is there often sometimes like some conflict like that between the riders and those who are calling out the strategy?
Well, I kind of think like if you're a good sports director, you've got the respect of the riders. And if they kind of go, oh, I don't agree with that, and you go, well, this is the idea, this is the plan I'm going with, we've got to execute this. Um, it's fine. I think the riders appreciate that. It's when you're in the situation in a race where riders are giving you this and you can't make the decision, that's worse. That's worse when you're like, oh, maybe we should chase. No, maybe not. I don't know. Let's give it 5 more Ks. And then the gap's going out and out and out. Oh, guys, what do you think? And then they're like, well, we said 5K ago. Like, now it's out to an extra 2 minutes now. Now what are we going to do? And then you're like, oh, let's chase. That's when they're like pissed off. And they're like, man, we just gave away 2 minutes. Now we have to chase harder. Now, like, indecision making, So, um, there is, of course, there'll be times where they go, I don't know why we rode today. We didn't have to ride. But yeah, you just got to discuss it, and everyone's got their own reasons as to why. And at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter if we should have ridden or if we shouldn't have ridden. The most important part is that we executed what we set out to do as a team. There's obviously scenarios where it doesn't work out and they go, oh, we should have done X, Y, and Z. But that's why you have a good debrief to discuss what happened and then go, all right, so what are the takeaways from today? What can we improve on? What are we going to go for the next time?
Cool. So we'll do one more question, and I'm looking forward to hearing this one. Gary, he said, would love to hear a breakdown of the stage win, the one that you won, Daryl. Like, were you just having a super day? Did you know you were stronger than Tish Benoit and co? Tell us a little bit about how that all played out, like from getting in the break to what you were thinking, feeling to crossing the line first.
Well, look, I mean, for me, it was the last opportunity in the tour to go for a stage win. I remember we had disc brake bikes, and I was fed up with it because it was my brakes were touching. So I actually rode my normal rim brake bike, and I remember Scott wasn't really happy about it because it was a new bike and I wasn't using it. But I just said to the team, it's my last opportunity, and I want to have a crack. At the stage, I didn't want to stop or anything. And then I didn't want to stop to change bikes along the way or anything. And yeah, I was just super patient in the beginning. Knew it was an uphill start. I kind of took a bit of a gamble, and then it was my second time I followed an attack. It was with Edvald Bosenhagen, and yeah, we rode away, and then guys came across to us, and it was very difficult start. But I hadn't used the same amount of like energy as everybody else to get in the breakaway. So there again, just like a little bit of luck on my side as well, but also maybe a bit of experience going like which breaks to look out for, who are the riders I want to look out for, who do I think is going to try and get in the breakaway today. All those kinds of things come into play. But yeah, I had a super day. I was making good decisions all day. In the breakaway it was tough. I mean, there were a couple of attacks coming near the end, but I was just like smart how I used everyone. But I think I was just in that zone of like, right, I just got to have this gambling mentality all day and see where it gets me. And I remember being like super calm, and then everything I just did just worked. Like a group of like 8 went off the front, and I remember like, oh, I should just go with that now. I feel like it's the moment. I went, and that was the moment. And then same on the climb, I remember it was Tish and Nico Roche up the road, and then Tratnik was just behind them. And I was with Oliver Nassen and Jasper Steven. And the two of them were just looking, they didn't see me. It was headwind up the climb. And they were just sitting there, the two of them like working together up this climb. And I was just hiding in the corner. And I remember the two of them, come on, we can get close by. Let's just get close by, and over the top we'll work together. And I was just thinking, oh, if you just give me 700 meters to go up this climb, I reckon I can jump across. And yeah, then I jumped across and I caught them just over the top, and it was just like everything was just going my way. And then the three of us were away, and then Tish attacked again, and then Nico followed. Well, I kind of let it go. I left it, and I was like, oh, I acted like I was a bit like under the pump, and then Nico tried to close a little bit. As he got close, I jumped across, and it was just like everything was just working out all day. Of course, in the end with Tish, you never guarantee that you're going to win the sprint, but I know against Tish I had a good chance. So yeah, and like again, I was just on the fence, and then Tish tried to keep me on the fence, and I just made a good decision, backed out, and went over him again. Um, then I remember my victory salute. Just looked over the wrong shoulder. I think that was the only bad thing I did all day. But yeah, the decision making the whole day, everything was just going well. Like some days you have those days, and they don't come often.
Were you like just in the flow, not even thinking, just sensing like when to go? Is this like, that flow state where you're just in it, something like that?
Yeah, I just like every decision I made was just going right. I remember just thinking to myself, like, I've got good legs, my legs were great. Like I just didn't feel my legs all day. I mean, it was just I could just jump across to anything, I could do anything. I wasn't focusing on like, oh, I need to have 60 grams of carbs an hour or whatever. I wasn't thinking any of it. I was just like eating, carrying on, doing my thing in the race, not talking to many riders, and just kind of focusing what I had to do. I remember the team car was there, it was Matt Wilson and Julian Deeney in the car, and they were like, "Man, do you need anything?" I was just like, "Just a bottle, just a bottle." Like there was no like, I was never panicked. They're like, "Oh man, what else do you need?" And like, this is coming. I'm like, "Oh, good man, I'm good. I'm good. I've got the route on. I'm sorted." It was just. Yeah, I was just super calm. I don't know if it was all the years I'd been in the Tour de France breakaways before and I'd lost so many, chances from breakaways that I was just like, well, maybe this is another one of these opportunities. And also, when I looked at the riders in that breakaway, which was probably took the pressure off knowing there was so many good bike riders in that breakaway. It was like, well, whoever wins this breakaway is just going to be like, oh, this was an awesome day. Um, so it wasn't like, oh, I should win out of this breakaway. It's kind of like we were all just pretty good bike riders, and we're like, well, whoever wins today it'll just be a great win. It's like nobody could have said out of that breakaway like, oh, I've got the best chance today.
So it sounds like you weren't focused on the win from when you got in the break. You just kind of took it one step at a time, and then you find yourself in that winning break, and then you're thinking of winning. But prior to that, it was just like you weren't like from getting in the break. Oh, I have to win today. You were more just going with it, like from one moment to the next. Eh?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the thing, like the key is that I took a probably more step by step approach than thinking like, oh, the final climb I got to be good. It was more like I was just in the moment. Like I thought, stuff's happening now, moves are going now. What am I going to do now? It wasn't like, oh, later on someone will bring it back. I'm sure it'll be cool and this guy will ride. It was just more like react, react, react. Like, don't lose the opportunity, don't lose focus. Yeah, it was, yeah, that just, the next day I suffered a lot on the bike, so it obviously took a lot out of me. But yeah, you don't get days like that in the tour. The other time I had a day like that in the tour was 2015 or 16 when I rode away with Nibali. Steve Cummings won the stage, and it was like me and it wasn't Danny Navarro and Nibali up this climb. It was like 15K climb, Cat 1. And I remember Nibali was like attacking, trying to get rid of me. And I just sat him the whole way. I was ridiculous. I never, I like that day. I still remember to this day, like, how did I climb up there with those guys? And I still hit him over the top. And I rode away with Danny Navarro and came second in the stage. And I remember Danny Navarro going like, "Hey man, you've got to give me a second because you didn't work on the climb." And I was like, "Mate, you didn't drop me. There's no way I'm giving you second. Um, but Steve Cummings was, yeah, he was the victor that day. But like that day was also an epic day. It was like Van Avermaet in the break, and I think Cancellara, and it was just a huge Tony Martin. It was like a whole bunch of like good bike riders, and then just yeah, just made some good decisions, and yeah, sometimes it goes that way.
That's cool. Yeah, that's it's lovely because most of the time it doesn't go your way, right? That's like one in what, like maybe 50 rides or more, races or more, right? When it all comes together like that. I mean, at that level, it's just so tough to be in the winning move, eh? And to challenge for the win.
90% of the time you're getting a beating. 10%, I'd say 10% of the year you're having a good day. And, probably like 8% of those are in training. So it's like 2% in racing. Like I used to go on some training rides and come back and think, oh, if I was racing today, I would have smashed it. Like, and then you go to the race and you're just like, oh, where are those legs? It's all destroyed in training. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if maybe I was just, yeah. I don't know. When I was training, I was also super focused. But yeah, definitely the racing side of it. I mean, now when you in the Tour de France, that's that. If you win at that level, you kind of just are like, yeah, you pinch yourself, and especially now when it's become so difficult to, there's such little opportunity when you've got like one or two guys stealing the show. Now you grab a stage win, it's huge.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. I think we're gonna wrap it up. Is there anything else you want to share before we end it off?
No, I'm all good. I think we've got a few easier days in the tour. I don't think nothing's going to really the big GC shake-up's going to come in the second week. I think, but yeah, we'll see. Like I say, it's concentration for everybody on these first days, and there's also a lot that can happen in these sprint finishes. So let's hope everyone stays upright.
Cool. Prediction for tomorrow. My prediction is Tim Millier to take the win. I think he's the fastest sprinter in the world when it comes to pure speed. What about you?
I think Millia's probably, yeah. I think Milan. I think Milan. I think he's gonna
Yeah,
get.
he's a big boy. He's got a lot of power. That guy. I think 2,000 watts or more. So anyway, we're going to wrap it up. Thanks, guys, for joining. Please leave us some more questions. We'll get to more of your questions next week as well. And we appreciate you guys sharing the podcast. If you're enjoying it, leave us a review if you like what we're doing. And we'll plan for another podcast next week talking about the first 8 or 9 days of the tour. All right, with that, we're going to wrap it up. Thanks for joining. And Daryl, any last words?
All good. Cheers, guys. Thank you very
Cheers,
much.
guys. Awesome. Ciao.